Welcome to a Kennedy Party video production. Today we will be talking about election integrity. This is very important to our party. It's so important that it is the 10th part of our platform. The first platform principle, of course, being that we accept all people. That's important. But the 10th platform principle of our party is election integrity. And it's so important that we consider it to be a foundational principle of our party, because frankly it is foundational to a democratic system. Now, the reason we're talking about this today is because the voting rights the new voting rights legislation that's going through Congress right now proposes to make sweeping changes to our election system. Now, you have probably heard all kinds of things from both parties about what such change will entail. As a Kennedy Democrat, I'm going to propose today that changes, voting reform, it does indeed need to be done in the American voting system, but it needs to be done rightly, and it needs to be done much more than what they are proposing in the present legislation as of January 2022. Now, if you were to listen to the progressives, who unfortunately have become the voice of the Democratic Party and really are not Democrats, but you listen to the progressive opinion for this legislation, they will say that voting reform is needed so that people aren't left out. They want to make mail-in ballots to be a permanent part of the voting system in America, whereas right now it's only done in some states. I will submit to you, America, that this legislation that they are proposing will, in general, there's many different points about this voting rights legislation. I will submit to you that in general, the changes to being made will institutionalize cheating in our election system. How so? To begin with, the mail-in ballots. These may have been done successfully in some states, particularly Oregon and in Washington, where I have taken part of this system. It may be successful in some states, but that's not to say that there isn't or hasn't been cheating on a statewide level. Now, the reason that it basically would make institutionalized cheating is because, as we saw in the last election, or at least again, with the lack of congressional pursuit or the congressional will to look into the election integrity of 2020, it was reported that many mail-in ballots were empty ballots, or something that people get only if they're like out of town, if they're overseas, like servicemen. The progressives want everybody to use a mail-in ballot so that they can basically throw into the election pool every cycle They want to throw in a bunch of phony, false mail-in ballots by the thousands, to 10,000s, tens and tens of thousands. We don't know because of the lack of will to look into any election cycle. Now, this should concern every American if you're concerned about democracy. Democracy is about one person, one vote. And it is not that anymore, because you have a system of mail-in ballots where one person's vote may really represent 10, 20, multiple times over their voice. That should not be. One person, one vote. And I'll say another thing about for voting reform, that the Republicans aren't wrong in this point about having voter ID. I will tell you why. It makes perfect sense to show an ID to get, to either vote in person in a booth or to have a mail-in ballot. Folks, every one of you that got a vaccination this past year or two had to show an ID. I know, because I was shocked when to be asked to be shown an ID in order to get vaccination. That's right. Everybody had to show their ID to get vaccination. If this is so important to do, and it's not the only thing in life, for vaccination to do many things in life, then there is no excuse whatsoever not to have it as part of our voting system. As a Kennedy Democrat, I would also submit to you that we should even go further by not even using electronic voting machines. This is another area that can be easily manipulated, very easily. I mean, you, me, you, we don't know anything about electronics and machines. The general public does not know how an electronic voting machine operates and how it can be changed to vote. When a person submits their vote, nobody can know for sure that it isn't being voted for somebody else, even when you get a paper, printed paper back, which I appreciate in the present state that I live in. But as one of the points that we would like to see, Kennedy Democrats would like to see for voting changes, go back to paper ballots. There is no reason why we cannot use that. We went away from it because everybody wants to use, some kind of technology to make things faster. Well, faster is not a virtue in a democratic elective system. Faster is not the goal of elections. Integrity is the goal of democracy elections. Integrity, honesty, knowing who really won any particular office. When you have all these